Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome back to another weekly wrap-up where I'm not sure how awake I actually am, but we're gonna find out. I think I read 6 things this past week, and I'll just jump in and talk about the one that I think I might have actually disliked, but I still haven't rated it, and that is God Emperor of Dune by Frank Herbert. This is the 4th book in the Dune Chronicles, and I actually buddy read this with Goran, who is Nemo No Name, down in the comments, and if I've said any of these names wrong, I'm sorry. It's really early in the morning, can you tell? He had already read the entire series, so he was rereading and got to listen to me react to the story for the first time, as it gets kind of weird and squicky, and I didn't agree with a lot of the stuff going on in it. So God Emperor of Dune follows Leto Atreides II, the son of Paul Atreides, after he has transformed himself into this gigantic sandworm creature, and it's 3,500 years after the end of Children of Dune. Leto is essentially the tyrant of the human race, and much of this book is Leto talking and talking and talking about why he has done this, trying to explain it and justify it and what's to come next, and the golden path is the only thing. Leto has been breeding the Atreides line for a specific purpose, and in this book he is testing Siona, a young Atreides woman whom he believes has the quality that he has been hoping to achieve with his breeding program. She might be the key to the next stage of the plan, essentially. I really did not agree with a lot of the stuff in this book. A lot of the philosophy and the tactics, I just... Mainly though, I'm so put off by all these mentions of breeding programs and mating people to each other, and I feel really terrible about Duncan Idaho being continually resurrected as a Gola. Like, why do you keep torturing this man's personality and bringing him back over and over again? It just seems pointlessly cruel. Anyway, you could tell I did not like Leto very much at this point. I do have to say that some of the ideas are interesting, even if I'm not personally comfortable with them or I very viscerally disagree with them. This is just, I think, a different tactic for envisioning the human race's future, what might have to happen for humanity to continue on. I don't think it's very believable though. At this point I'm going to take a break from reading the series. I do plan to finish the last 2 books sometime this year, but I just need a break because I have been told that the last 2 books contain some even more squicky stuff, and I'm not ready for that yet. Another thing that I finished was The Moor by Laurie R. King, which is the 4th book in the Russell and Holmes mystery series. This one is based on The Hound of the Baskervilles, though it actually features Mary Russell and Sherlock Holmes coming back to the Dartmoor area many years after the original case, when some of the same things start happening again, and a friend on the moor believes that something terrible is happening there, and he wants them to uncover what it is, hopefully before he passes away. I have to say that the plot of this one and the relative lack of exciting action weren't the best, but I really enjoyed the writing and the feel, and especially the setting. There was just something about Dartmoor and the moor itself in the story that I really came to enjoy. I think I ended up rating this one 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads just because I was so into the presence in the story, though I may have to bump it down a little bit now that I'm thinking about how relatively uninteresting the actual story was. Then I read Goodbye Things by Fumio Sasaki, which is a nonfiction book about minimalism. I came across this after I read Marie Kondo's books The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up and Spark Joy, because I was interested in reading some more kind of inspirational works on minimalism and getting rid of your stuff. This is, I think, a pretty new release. And I did like it. I was surprised at how much I already kind of knew, probably because I read Kondo's books, but also I'm not actually that new to the concept of minimalism. While I don't think I will ever be a minimalist myself, I find some of the basic ideas to be helpful with getting rid of my own stuff, and I actually want to downsize a little bit and get rid of unnecessary things. And that's why I read books like this, for the inspiration. I find it easier to start getting rid of things and cleaning up when I'm reading one of these for whatever reason. So Goodbye Things is like two things in one, I think. The first is that it contains a very helpful list of 55 tips for getting rid of your stuff, getting started with minimalism. And I thought that that was really helpful. A lot of the tips were not new to me because they definitely cross over with the same advice and tips that Marie Kondo gives, but there were some that were also new to me, like the things about auctioning, for example. So I took a lot of notes from that section. The other half of this is basically the author's personal testament to the benefits of minimalism, because he noticed that when he started getting rid of his possessions, that his physical, mental, and emotional health greatly improved. And he breaks down the major things that he noticed improving in his life while he was doing this, and why he thinks they happened, and basically how the same things could happen for other people. So this is very anecdotal, it's very personal to his experience, but it's also backed up with other anecdotal evidence from other minimalists, and I thought that was really interesting. So I don't know if I learned that much new from this book, but it served its purpose for me, which was to be relatively inspirational. And I would definitely recommend it if you are interested in minimalism but still in the beginning stages. This is definitely not one for somebody who's quite advanced in minimalism. Also, maybe if you tried reading Marie Kondo's works but they didn't really work for you, maybe because the method was too strict, or you didn't jive with her personality or some of the quirkier elements of her method, like the animism, for example. Goodbye Things doesn't have any of that. I think it would probably appeal more to, I don't know, the American sensibility. My favorite read of the week, which wasn't a reread, was Nevermoor, The Trials of Morrigan by Jessica Townsend. I had never heard of this book before it was nominated for the BooktubeSFF Awards in the middle grade category, so I picked it up and I really enjoyed it. I think I fell in love with this book a little bit. Now that I know a bit more about the book, I've seen a lot of people comparing it to Harry Potter, and I actually get that comparison. I think it's a little bit helpful because it covers the basics here. This is about Morrigan, an 11-year-old girl who is a cursed child and is destined to die at the end of this particular age. Except she's whisked away at the last moment by Jupiter North, who takes her to Nevermoor and wants her to go through a series of tests to become a member of the Wondrous Society. There are hundreds of children applying and only 9 will get in. He thinks that she has a particular gift, a magical gift or whatever, and she has to perform through these tests, and the final one is a test of her knack, her particular wondrous ability. Only thing is, she doesn't have one. She seems to be a perfectly ordinary, though cursed child, and she has no idea why Jupiter North wants to basically be her patron, wants her to become a member of the Wondrous Society. She just shows up to go through the trials and hopes that he has the brilliant idea to get her through, and we'll explain it all in the end. I really enjoyed the world and the ideas here, but most of all, I liked the characters. Jupiter North was great. I liked many of the other supporting characters. Fen, who is this gigantic, severe battle cat or something. I loved Fen. But I think there's something special about Morrigan herself. For some reason I kept imagining her a bit like Wednesday Addams in my head, maybe because it's the crow imagery, the family that she comes from, the way that she was treated. She's scared and unconfident and is kind of railing against the world for being so unfair because she spends her whole life expecting to die by the time she's 12 years old, and she's treated so badly by her family, and then to be whisked away to this world where all of a sudden everybody is kind to her and understanding and thinks that she's special, and she's sort of sitting there huddled up scared, like, I want to enjoy all of this, but I'm afraid if I say the wrong thing or if I don't succeed, I'm gonna be sent home and die. And yeah, it broke my heart a little bit. I really like her, and I'm excited to see what becomes of her in the next book, which is coming out later this year. Now that she knows what she is, what will happen. So it was really good. I would really recommend this one. I wish that I had heard of it sooner. Then I read A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I had actually tried to read this book when it first came out in 2015, I think, and I had DNF'd it pretty quickly because I was bored by it and it didn't seem to be my thing. So I have to be upfront and honest that I never thought I was going to read the series, and because of that I never tried to avoid any spoilers when other people talked about it. But it turns out that the third book in the series, A Conjuring of Light, is nominated in the fantasy category for the BooktubeSFF Awards, and I have to judge that category, so I'm going back to try to catch up with the series. So this time around I tried listening to A Darker Shade of Magic on audiobook, and that turned out to be a good choice. I've been doing that with some of these things that I'm attempting for a second time, and it's definitely been working better. And I was surprised a bit that I actually enjoyed it this time around. Maybe I was just more in the mood for it. Though I have to say at the end that I feel like it's a relatively simple, predictable story, and so there was nothing really exciting or surprising in the story itself for me. My major impression after finishing this book is that it was fine, but I was surprised at how relatively flat and colorless it felt to me. I don't know if that's because I'm not as interested in this as major fans of the series are, or if there just is a significant lack of depth. I feel like there's really nothing under the surface with this world, especially with the characters. The two main characters, Lila and Kel, are essentially blank slates. They literally don't remember their childhoods, and their backstories are never filled in. So here I have two main characters that I know nothing about, why they are the way they are and how they came to be this way and what is ultimately motivating them. And that did not make for the most interesting of reading experiences. At this point, if I didn't already know something about the next two books, I would say that I thought this really leaves potential for exciting things to happen, for growth to happen, for all these blank spaces to be filled in. But I do know something about the next book in particular, and it sounds like that's not really going to happen. So yeah, I will continue on. I'm a little bit disappointed that I can't listen to the next two books on audio because I thought that was a really great way to listen to Darker Shade of Magic. Unfortunately, my libraries don't have the audiobooks, so I will have to read them in print, and hopefully that works out okay for me. And then I ended my week with a reread of All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This novella is nominated in the short work category for the BooktubeSFF Awards, and there is a March read along for it, which is why I decided to reread it this month. And I loved it all over again. It was just as good as the first time that I read it back in November of 2017. What to say here? I think I talked about this in my A to Z Readathon wrap-up video, so I'm not going to go over all of it again, but this time I paid much more attention to the details of the plot. The first time around I was just really in love with the characters, with Murderbot's personality and how it interacted with the human survey team that it's guarding. But this time I did pay more attention to the little details popping up as basically this survey team is sabotaged and targeted and people are after them to kill them. So I enjoyed the plot much more this time. I also liked the ending of it more than the first time around, probably because I was paying attention to those little things that Murderbot is doing and thinking before it does the thing at the end, and it just made more sense. It didn't come out of left field as much as I had thought it did in the first time around. I wonder at this point if part of the reason why I love it so much and other people do as well is because we maybe relate to Murderbot's anxiety issues. Murderbot has very extreme social anxiety. They're very shy and very anxious. I do have social anxiety, but not anywhere near to the extreme that Murderbot does. But there's something in the story there with that representation of anxiety and what it feels like, and the way that you do things to avoid social interactions, the awkwardness of it all, and then the way that the human characters come to understand and see that Murderbot is so shy and anxious. I think there's some understanding and compassion there, which I know I certainly hope that other people would react to me with if they realize how anxious I am. And I like that. It's part of the story that I think captures a deep wish inside of me or something. Tell me if that makes sense to you as well. I feel like maybe the characters in this are all too good or something, but I really enjoy the lack of conflict there with the central team and this unit around our security unit. So anyway, that's me just blathering on. I really loved it. I'll probably reread it again in the future, and the second one is coming out in the series in May, and I can't wait. I can't wait. So that was my week of reading. Pretty good. I still don't know how I'm going to rate God Emperor of Dune, but I'll cross that bridge later. So thank you very much for watching. If you've read any of these books and you want to talk to me about them, please leave me a comment down below, and I will talk to you again very soon. And until then, bye.